Welcome to Black Sheep and Bad Apples, the podcast where we open this thing very poorly. I write a story very soberly, and in various states of inebriance, I read them to my guests tonight.
Welcome to my level. I feel ready.
We've got the Wisecrack Peanut Gallery that is these three gentlemen.
Woo! I'm no gentleman.
Just introduce yourself. Just do the thing.
My name is Pedro Alejandro Montoya.
Sam Mitchell is here.
Oh, we have to say all those words together.
Yeah. And we've got our boy, Joe.
Howdy, howdy.
Yeah, resident storyteller. How you feeling tonight, Joe?
Feeling good. Yeah, missed it last week. It feels good to be back.
Yeah, I had to take a week off. I was busy on important business.
Felt like years.
It felt like years. And then, as always, our
I thought you quit the game, really.
producer button. No, I didn't quit. I love this. Our producer button clicking
Oh, yeah.
guy over here, Mr. Sean.
They call me the button clicker.
Button clicker.
He pushes buttons.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. It's, a little pre-show technical difficulty, but
Yeah.
it's cool. That's how this job works, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been a little irksome.
Show must go on, though, so.
So, just as a whole, how y'all feeling tonight?
Feeling good.
You ready to not feel so good?
Feeling groovy.
I'm open to some new ideas. Is
The,
this a good podcast for that?
this episode is very good for being open to
okay.
new ideas.
I was hoping we could talk about something really horrible, so it made me feel better about myself as a person.
Well, I've got good news for you. We're talking about Dylann Roof.
Oh!
Wah,
Yeah.
wah, wah, wah.
Man, I am a fucking upstanding member of society compared to that dude.
I
Yeah,
mean,
he's a SoundCloud rapper, right?
yeah, he's a SoundCloud rapper. Definitely didn't do anything too bad.
Cool.
But I did prepare a little something. So let's go ahead and dive into that
All
and
right.
see what we think of Dylann, who might be a SoundCloud rapper after this.
Cool. Yeah.
You can clearly see Dylann Roof parking his black sedan and walking into Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church. The timestamp on the video indicates that his vehicle and he arrived just after 8:15 p.m. on June 17th, 2015. The video shows him getting out of his vehicle and walking into the church doors as he adjusts his waistband. After entering into the church, Roof takes a seat to attend a weekly Bible study with fellow worshipers. Around him was Democratic State Senator Clemente C. Pickney, the church's pastor, and 8 other people who are, or rather, Clemente was the pastor, and 8 other people who were participating in the Bible study. They were nearing the end of their congregation and had bowed their heads and closed their eyes to pray for the goodness of God, for forgiveness, and for redemption. When Dylann Roof stood up, took out his .45 caliber Glock 41, and aimed at the 87-year-old Susie Jackson. Jackson's nephew, Tywanza Sanders, began to try to talk him down, to which Roof allegedly replied, "I have to do it. You rape our women, and you are taking over our country, and you have to go." After telling them he intended to kill all of them, Sanders dove in front of Jackson and was the first to die that night. What transpired over the next 6 minutes would end with 9 people dead and 3 survivors. You can clearly see Dylann Roof exit the church, Glock 41 in hand. The timestamp now indicates 9:06 p.m. He opens the church to the door, peers outside in both directions, and steps out of the doorway, gun in hand, and gets into his car, still in camera frame, and drives away.
Oof.
So it's going to be a very light night to get.
Well, when does he
Yeah.
drop the mixtape? Because that's going to be rough.
You know, we might not get into that tonight.
So he's just trying to get street cred, or?
Well, before we keep going, we're going to talk about how he was captured real quick. Because it was the next day at about 11 a.m., police 245 miles away pulled over a car matching the alleged shooters and pulled Mr. Roof out in handcuffs. And you can find all this dash cam footage online. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what he was doing, because he wasn't doing anything after the shooting. You can hear in this video where I'm gonna discuss a little bit about. He just didn't have a plan, is what it seemed like. He was just like he went afterwards to like some fast food restaurant and got some food, and then just like was like, I'll head east for a little while. And,
Whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but they got him about 14 hours later.
Kill 9 people, you're gonna be a little hungry.
I mean, who wouldn't be?
But it's weird not to have like an escape plan where like if you're doing like did he think he was gonna die there?
It does
or
offer some like mental look there when somebody's just like, and then just has no afterthought. Like when they obviously it was kind of premeditated.
Yeah.
But then that's where it stopped.
Well, and that's where it gets kind of weird, is because like in the FBI interview taken after he was arrested, he talks about how surprised he was that there wasn't just cops aplenty outside of the church, and how he had like intentionally kept a single clip in his what ends up becoming essentially a fanny pack after the shooting, and he loads that after he's done killing people, and that's when we see him. Yeah, that's when we see him walk out. Because he said that he wanted to die by suicide, but then he kind of contradicts himself too. So it's kind of hard to get a real good image of
He
what
was trying to suicide by cop, but nobody called.
I genuinely think that he kind of just did it because he had visited this church several times. I think it was like 2 or 3 times beforehand, and asked about like Bible study and when people got together, and he had been like really going about. Like he was kind of planning to shoot.
This
black
is way
people
premeditated.
The incident itself wasn't premeditated, but
No,
we're
for
going to
sure
talk
it
a little
was.
bit about
well,
like
his
what kind of
message was.
I mean,
Yeah,
if he cased the place out, right, and like searched out a time to go to the church to do the thing,
well, see that's
that's
where,
premeditated.
yeah, but he didn't search out the time to go to this church, and he had been to like different places before, and it's really hard to get like a bearing on if it was premeditated or not, because it sounds like he was just driving around and he had thought that this was a good church simply because it's extremely historic. It was like it was burned down twice by like I believe the Union South, because it was a black church, and it actually helped freed slaves. The Union South, yeah, the Confederates, yeah. Sorry, I fucked that up a little bit. But yeah, apparently it helped move like freed the slaves from the south to the north, and so it was like it's a very historic building, and so like he was looking at kind of like places
and a
like
state
this.
senator happened to be there,
Well, the state senator,
and then the guy doesn't know what he's going to do afterwards. After he assassinates the state senator, he just drives east.
Well, this is a case of I think like accidental assassination, where he didn't identify who anybody
could see
was.
that.
There.
Joe, I don't know.
We'll talk about.
I do think
I'm
that.
looking over here at Joe, but Joe, is it starting to smell a little like a Manchurian candidate in here, or?
Well, let me.
I mean, wait till we hear the mixtape, and then
Okay,
let's.
Yeah. So we're gonna get to the mixtape.
I fucking swear there
Which
better be a mixtape.
There's no mixtape in this episode. I'm not gonna.
You totally sent me a link to a mixtape.
It's a type of tape for sure.
Yeah, it's his mixtape.
So, in his interview with police, Dylann looks calm and unfazed by the presence of FBI and police. During his interview with police after his capture, he was asked to explain what he did. And he starts very slowly with almost imperceptible remorse and says, quote, well, yeah, I went to the church in Charleston, and then the interviewing agent interrupts and says, you did what? And after a couple more moments of silence, Roof says, quote, well, I did it. I killed him. And he pauses for a little bit longer before saying, well, I guess. I mean, I don't really know. Well, I don't know how many people were in there. So, like, he shot a bunch of people, but he doesn't know if he killed anybody. But he definitely did.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of people in there. It wasn't a full church. It was just the 9 people for Bible study.
It was
right?
12 people.
12
there were
people
3
for Bible
survivors.
study.
Yeah.
And do we know what type of shots they were? Was it like a couple in the head, a couple in the gut, a couple, or did he just like?
Well,
no, he had a.
And
he
so
went in
he
the-
maybe didn't know.
He
maybe
went in
when
there
he
with
walked out,
77
there was-
rounds.
Not
Yeah.
in his Glock 41.
No. He went in there with 6 clips that contained 11, and then, or no, it was 71 rounds, 6 clips that contained 10, and then he had 10 in his gun,
One
and
in
then
the
one in the
chamber.
chamber. Yeah.
So it seems like he
so-
thought it would be more people than.
Yeah. Well, and mind you, he went in there with 71 bullets. I might get that detail a little bit wrong, but he went in there with 71 bullets and left with 10 rounds in his gun. Because remember, he was walking out of the church waiting for like cops to shoot at him, so he claims kill himself, but it's kind of debatable.
Yeah.
Because you don't need 10 rounds to kill yourself. But yeah, so like he shot 61 rounds in this church. So you can assume that he wasn't going for accuracy as much as quantity.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wait, but I mean, why would you need to discharge that many? Like, everybody should have been dead in the church then.
Yeah.
But he went on a Bible study with just.
That's what I mean. There
8
was
people.
12 people there.
Well,
13
there was-
including him.
Well, and see,
yeah.
I might have just
That's
skipped through
5
some-
bullets a person plus a whole extra clip.
Well, and mind you, this is a gigantic church. So what actually happened was there was actually only 9 people gathered around in the congregation or in the study. There was a woman with her 2 children, or maybe 2 women with a child in the back offices doing clerical work. And so at some point, one of these women was chased around, and when he went to shoot her, the gun, from what I understand, just was empty. And so he said, well, I need to keep you alive anyway, because somebody's got to tell my story.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty good.
So he went in and shot
Yeah.
each person 5 times, allowed one to survive. A couple others probably just got.
Yeah,
out
it
of
was a
there,
mother
you
and
know,
a
like-
kid who hid under a desk in the
Gotcha,
clerical
yeah.
area. Yeah, so. Yeah.
And then he just went to McDonald's and started driving east.
I think it was McDonald's, actually. Yeah, I'd have
Of
to look
course
into
it was McDonald's.
Yeah.
Golden arches.
Yeah. So after during the interview, after a few more moments of silence, I read that part. The interview continues with Roof being asked, "Do you know how many people you shot?" And he responds slowly, "If I had to guess, 5." And he kind of says that with like the same air one would answer a math question to which they don't have the answer. 5, maybe. I'm not really sure. So tonight, like we did with Brenda Spencer, we're gonna kind of look at some facts and kind of analyze Mr. Roof a little bit, and we're gonna try to kind of explore the mindset of this particular killer, because we've seen him physically shooting people, and we haven't, but as we've seen, he physically has shot people, and so he's a little different from other people that we've covered. Because tonight we're going to be talking about radicalization. Yeah. So, during Roof's interview, he says that he started paying attention to race relations when he had heard about Trayvon Martin and the subsequent reaction from his interview. Quote, "The first thing I guess I would say that woke me up, was the Trayvon Martin case. That was a while back." And he continues with, "I just couldn't see what the big deal was."
Oh, God.
Now, just to provide a little backstory, Trayvon Martin was a 17-year-old high school student shot by a neighborhood watch coordinator, George Zimmerman. Zimmerman was driving through the neighborhood doing some personal errands when he saw a suspicious Martin walking and, quote, looking around. The neighborhood had quite a few break-ins in the last few weeks, so Zimmerman was kind of doing what
Being
he
a
thought.
true patriot?
Yeah, he was doing
okay.
his neighborly
Yeah.
duties. And as he would call the police, he also began following Martin. He parked his car and got out and started following Martin around. And after the police told him to stop following the suspect, who wasn't a suspect, the call was ended. And the details get a little murky, as they tend to do during in interviews and investigations like this. But an alleged scuffle happened, with the result being Trayvon Martin was shot and Zimmerman was mildly injured. But the whole world had their eyes on this case. Zimmerman was eventually acquitted of all charges on the grounds of self-defense, and thus he was released. Now, since we're not talking about Trayvon tonight, that's all the details we're going to get into for that.
All right, good. That's a rough one.
Yeah, the point that I'm trying to make is that that's kind of where Roof started paying attention to race relations. He had apparently gone online and started looking at black on white crimes immediately after this. So he just read Trayvon Martin's Wikipedia page, mind you, and was like, black on white crimes into Google.
Seems like he wanted a reason.
From his alleged manifesto, quote, "The event that truly awakened me was the Trayvon Martin case. I kept hearing and seeing his name. I eventually decided to look him up. I read the Wikipedia article right away, and I was unable to understand what the big deal was. It was obvious that Zimmerman was in the right. but more importantly,
in the right.
but more importantly, this prompted me to type the words black on white crime into Google, and I have never been the same since that day. Now, I found other articles that... Oh, this is actually me. I shouldn't be quoting him. Now, I found other articles that discuss how primed the internet is for one, without prior knowledge, to kind of self-radicalized at home. This is from the website that I'm sure Roof would have hated, called Teaching Tolerance. And I'm quoting their website. Roof then typed black on white crime into the search engine, hit enter, and fell into a wormhole. Top results sent him into the website for the Council of Conservative Citizens, which offered page after page featuring what Roof would refer to as brutal black on white murders. Google presented Wolf with well-packaged propaganda, misinformation published by a group with a respectable-sounding name and a history of racist messaging, a group that once referred to black people as retrograde species of humanity. Yeah.
Winners.
Okay, all right.
Very
Fucking winners.
good.
Goal seekers.
See,
we like
and
to
it
say.
sounds bad, but once you put a beat to it and it's like sampled right, like it gets to be like something pretty cool.
Yeah, so you're
like,
saying the lyrics are okay, we just got to find the right music.
the tempo, yeah, you got to speed it up a little, and like you put in like a
don't-
It's
badass
like a
beat
sweet
to
trap
it.
beat or something.
Agree. But let's go into the CCC themselves and kind of see how how we test the waters of this trap song.
Yeah, all right.
The CCCs.
Yeah. The
Council
for
of-
Conservative Citizens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A group that you want as your neighborhood watch. I'm
So,
sure they're
yeah.
really good at like making sure your garage door is always closed. And
So, quoting from Dylan's manifesto, the first website I came to was the Council of Conservative Citizens. There were pages upon pages of these brutal black on white murders. I was in disbelief. At this moment, I realized that something was very wrong. How could news be blowing up the Trayvon Martin case while hundreds of these black on white murders got ignored? From this point, still Dylan, I researched deeper and found out what was happening. I found out what was happening in Europe. I saw the same things were happening in England and France and in all other Western European countries. Again, I found myself in disbelief. As an American, we are taught to accept living in the melting pot, and black and other minorities have just as much right to be here as much as we do, since we are all immigrants. But Europe is the homeland of white people, and in many ways, the situation is even worse there. From what I found out about the Jewish problem and other issues facing our race, I can say today that I am completely racially aware.
So what?
I like how he doesn't actually give you any problems. He was just like, I just got really, I studied up on it all, and now I know all of race relations.
Yeah.
So when is this piece of shit scheduled to be terminated? Because he is.
We're going to get to that. Now, the stubborn...
Do they need some help? They probably got it covered.
Oh, man. It's a whole mess we're going to get into in a little while. It'll be in Act 3 of this podcast.
Oh, Lord. Lord.
Now, the Southern Poverty Law Center describes the history and manifestation of the Council of Conservative Citizens, or CCC, as such. The Council of Conservative Citizens is the modern reincarnate of the old White Citizens Council, which were formed in the 50s and 60s to battle school desegregation in the South. Created in
Starting on a noble cause.
He says starting no.
Fucking asshole.
Well, this is,
Old white dudes for the education.
and what I love about this is that it started in the 50s and the 60s, and what you're going to read about in the next line is that they just failed so badly that they were like, we got to like give this thing a facelift, and how can we get our numbers up? So, quoting the Southern Poverty Law Center, The CCC created created in 1985 from the mailing list of its predecessor organization. The CDC has evolved into a crudely white supremacist group. So, one good thing to know is that you cannot find the CCC, Council for Conservative Citizens, online anymore. Their website is no longer there.
It's on the dark web.
So that's the good news.
What's it called now, though?
Yeah.
Bad news is
You can't find that anymore. They just changed their name again.
it's been changed to Conservative Headlines.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I took a little trip into this website for just a little bit of perspective and preparation for this episode, because I really wanted to like dive into like what the council believes, because like I can understand if somebody, like if one writer in like a news site or news journalist kind of media based whatever, I can understand if like one person has like these certain views, everybody else is like kind of like pulling the steam out from under their collar.
No, it never happens that
Well,
way.
and that's what I wanted to see
you
is
can
like
only have a newspaper of all white supremacy views.
Yeah.
Those are the only way you're ever going to publish those things.
Yeah, and so I went to this website, like kind of expecting the worst, and I was not disappointed.
I feel like this is like that the scene from whatever Star Wars where Obi-Wan is like they're going to the Mos Eisley Cantina, you know, and he's like, never was there more whatever pit
hive
of
of villainous-
villainy and scum or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. That's where you went on the internet.
It's
and just trying to get some info.
It's actually
door
not
creaks
the,
open
the
slowly.
darkest I've ever gone into this internet either. Like, have you guys ever been to 4chan?
Oh, yeah.
Not a good place. Don't go to it.
You know, I gotta stay away from those kind of places. I'll have
Bro.
a fucking aneurysm.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, wait
So-
till you see those red rooms, man.
So, Conservative Headline, which is totally not biased and totally pro-patriotic America, quote, new book admits that Jews make great spies because they can pass as white.
That's awesome
was
because
the
that's them
first-
being like, no, they're not white people. I swear.
That was the first headline I came across. On April 20th,
No.
2020, that was the first headline I came across, you guys.
No, that's a big time for them. 419, 420. Like, it's not the cool reason why we all like it, guys, but like,
Hitler time, baby.
yeah, smoking the ganja, right? Like, no, Hitler's birthday.
that makes sense.
Oklahoma City, Waco, all of that. Like 419.
I just thought of a new conspiracy. So you know how white power is trying to take over like the OK symbol, where 3 fingers up and the well,
Fucking QAnon,
it also
fucking
makes sense
bullshit.
because 420 is talking about weed, and then you hold a joint between your thumb and index finger.
Oh, no.
So is marijuana?
They're coming
Does
after
it
our
make you
weed,
racist?
man.
Yeah. They're trying to make it. We won't kill you, but it will make you
It
racist.
will make you racist.
I have a hard time believing that marijuana is like a white supremacist.
No, I think they're trying to use things that are already cool to kind of like slip into culture.
That's exactly what they're
Like,
doing.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
that's-
these are
that's the
losers.
Yeah, well, that's the perversion of ideology. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's not just white supremacists doing it. It's like, yeah.
Oh,
everybody who's-
Hollywood's doing it.
Everybody
every
who's
day.
trying to sell you on something's
That's
doing it all the time.
commercials.
So there was much more hateful things on this website, of which I'm not going to talk about on this podcast at all.
Aw.
But I do want to talk about an article that they had titled "The Myth of," and quoting them, quote, "White Terror Debunked." So it's the myth of white terror debunked. In the article, they say,
Okay.
brace yourselves, gentlemen.
I know where this is going.
They say-
Glad this chair is comfortable.
Quote,
and heavy.
anti-American activist groups such as White Haters and the Anti-Defamation League and the such as the White Haters at the Anti-Defamation League and Southern Poverty Law Center, along with virtually the entire political and media establishment, have been in an uproar over the alleged threat of, their quotes, white supremacist violence and terrorism,
Yeah.
particularly in the wake of mass shootings which took place in recent weeks in Gilroy, white supremacist, El Paso, Texas, don't know what they're talking about, and Dayton, Ohio, very racist. Continuing the quote, Following these latest shootings, even President Donald Trump joined the act in denouncing white supremacy, again, there air quotes, a weaponized buzzword used to slander and delegitimize pro-white advocates. And this is them quoting Donald Trump. In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy, Trump declared in a speech from the White House in early August. These sinister ideologies must be defeated. Hate has no place in America. End quote. I have never...
Donald Trump said that?
Donald Trump. According to these guys,
because
Donald Trump
people
said
have been
that.
trying to link Donald Trump to white supremacists since he got up there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somewhere something is funding some sort of
Wasn't his
Christian
dad a Nazi?
movement group.
You know, I don't know enough about him to tell.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm all right.
Yeah,
with
I know,
that. But I have no proof.
The
but-
guy looks like Trump's dad weirdly looks sort of like just this fucking supervillain. Like he looks like he could have played the bad guy in Captain America.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The red skeleton dude.
He wasn't a good
Oh.
dude either.
I'm not saying he looks just like that guy, but he definitely could.
One thing I do want to note about this website conservative headline is that these guys are so on the right that they've literally picked out a Trump quote that makes me like Trump slightly.
Yeah.
I'm giving brownie points to Trump now because these guys are so hateful that even Donald Trump seems pleasant.
I know you said the quote, and I was like, Donald Trump said that?
You know, he did, according to them. Yeah. it's-
Well, he said it. His writer wrote it.
yeah.
But it did
Someone's
come
just
out of his
just
mouth.
please
That's
read
what I
this.
mean. I'm just, yeah. I mean, lots of stuff.
That's
comes
on my
out of that dude's
occasionally.
mouth,
There's like
but
the dude
not much
behind
of it
Trump
I
that's like,
give
you
any
should probably just say this and shut the
I mean,
fuck
even
up.
if it's just lip service, it's amazing that he said it, like on some level, because he is just a white supremacist Nazi piece of shit.
I honestly
Well,
just think
but
he's
that-
dumb at this point. I just think he's...
The big argument that the white supremacist likes to use is that anti-racism is racist, and if you try and fight for racism, for racial equality, that's actually being very racist, and they try and
Love is hate.
they do a lot of double talk to try and get you there. Then they'll promise you
Us?
a T-shirt
Hey.
and sign you up.
So, again, these people in the... God damn it. These people in this conservative headline are talking about how, in their quotes, white supremacists have been demonized again by anti-American activist organizations to discredit whatever they name their version of racism is. And they cite an article by the Anti-Defamation League, which is an organization meant to stop the onslaught of racial bias against Jewish people.
Yeah.
Which discusses the Anti-Defamation League has an article that discusses that 50 people were killed by domestic terrorists. In their article, they are, from what I could tell, defending... Oh, no, sorry. This is the conservative headline. They talk about how 50 people were killed by domestic terrorists, and in their article, they are, from what I can really tell, defending domestic terrorism by citing how often people die from other things. From their article... It's going to be a good one this time. I promise, guys.
So die from other things. They're like the opposite
Quote,
of what they're trying to...
It's worth emphasizing that even if the numbers of deaths attributed to right-wing violence were true, 10 times as people die every year just by falling off ladders. An estimated 5,000 times more people die from medical mistakes annually. So... we should be more afraid of ladders than radicals, apparently.
There's a nice...
I am, but
There's a nice,
just-
open, vague comment where it's like, people die in hospitals a lot more than white supremacists kill people. And it's like...
Well, accidents happen, so I'm going to murder everybody in a church.
Well, and it's like, you can see the through line of intelligence when it comes to people who are of this mentality where it's like, people die more from ladders than they do from right-wing terrorism. And it's like...
People die in intersections every day.
We can't talk to ladders and tell them not to break.
Yeah, and that's the story of the second resurgence of the Spanish flu that killed 10 times as many people as the first wave.
Oh wait,
right?
how did that?
We're not
how did that
living in that
happen?
right
by the
now.
way, wasn't that because everybody stayed at home and sheltered in place?
No, I think World War One ended.
Oh,
and we partied.
Oh, right, and we got together
Everybody
at 6
got
feet distance.
Everybody got out in the streets and partied, and then 50 fucking million more people died.
Right. So while we go to break, we want you guys at home to remember: stay the fuck home, stay 6 feet away from other people, wear a goddamn mask, and wash your goddamn hands, because this is break time.
Spring break.
This week's episode of Black Sheep and Bad Apples was brought to you in part by the following contributors. Scruffy's 50-cent shave club for men. Prison-grade razors at affordable rates. Join Scruffy's 50-cent shave club for men now to start saving today. A Solid Friend Corporation. When you need a solid, we're here to be your friend. Call today to see how much you could save with a Solid Friend. Tried and true water research, finding the cure for hydration, one drop at a time. DIY Medical, medical education for organized crime members. And of course, by donations from viewers like you. If you're enjoying this week's podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, or share on our YouTube channel, Black Sheep and Bad Apples, or find us on Facebook at Fourth Corner Music. Thank you for the support, and now back to a little bit more of Black Sheep and Bad Apples.
Welcome back to the episode about Dylann Roof, where things in the studio are getting tense. There's been...
We started tense.
Yeah, we definitely didn't start
Kind of hard to
with...
relax when you're talking about people like this.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was a whole lot of shit talking and some slinging of shit across the room, Joe.
Yeah,
But
me.
since the hacky sacks are now in their restful place, Sean, don't throw them. Don't give me that look. Don't throw them. We're gonna be getting back to Dylann Roof. So Dylann Roof was self-radicalized at home.
Self-radicalized.
Well, that's the whole idea of the it's the leaderless revolution.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of them preach. Anyone could be part of the revolution if you just go and do revolutionary acts.
Yeah.
Fundamental character building usually does start at home.
So he was self-radicalized at home without white hoods and burning crosses, without meetings to attend, without a badge or label to wear. What he did find was corners of the internet that he found little bits of things that he liked, and he just ran with it.
Dark corners.
He found solace, hope, and community in these dark corners of the internet. He found all of these, and in the investigation that followed, it was discovered that he had created his own website, which was called The Last Rhodesian. Now, do you guys know what Rhodesia?
No, I gotta ask because I don't.
Yeah.
So what's that? Because I feel like it's important to know what that means to understand why he would have named that website that.
Well, it's history time.
Yeah.
History.
Rhodesia was a very racist, white minority-led, put those all in quotes, white minority-led, means it was a colonial fucking invasion. But it was a white minority-led government that grew up right alongside our apartheid South Africa. The British South African Company was more or less an organization that moved into Africa, and after having modeled itself after the Dutch and British East India trading companies, they just kind of invaded on the terms that they were helping people be more capitalistic.
Rhodesia is an area in Africa too. Isn't
Yeah.
Where do they come from?
They're Dutch.
They're
Okay, so it's a
yeah.
part of that Dutch
Afrikaner.
concentration
Afrikaner.
camps and all of that.
Yeah, and the Dutch and British East India trading companies were detrimental to any country that they came into contact with, stealing, coercing, and intimidating local populations of people. especially in India, but basically anywhere brown people lived. And the point of these companies, as well as the British South Africa company, was literally just to exploit the resources of a given country. This era, it was called the Scramble for Africa, the Conquest of Africa, or the Partition of Africa. So again, Rhodesia was essentially a bunch of white dudes that came into Africa during the 1880s and through like the 1810s. And in an attempt to bring the most amount of valuables to the company itself and the British Empire, they just chartered a fucking country. And like all these white dudes were like,
The
hey,
goofiest of the white dudes too. Like the Dutch are goofy as hell.
they really are. They're
Like that language, like Nurgen in the Gurgen. That's the only Dutch I know. It means fucking in the kitchen.
What?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nurgen and the Durgan?
Nurgen in the Gurgen.
Gurgen.
So Rhodesia
Nurgen and
was
the Gurgen.
also a lot like the state of Jefferson in like the 60s and
sounds like it.
70s. It was like an unrecognized state in southern Africa, sort of where modern
because
Zimbabwe is. And
the company, the British government themselves didn't want to like sign their name to the company, so they were like, "Here's some money. Go and wreak some havoc. Bring us money."
Just walking around with wooden shoes, telling people what to do. Like everyone's just like, "Come on, like just put on comfier shoes."
Well,
I'm never gonna listen to somebody who
Lighten
I know
up.
has like a bunch of blisters.
yeah.
If you're constantly frustrated because your feet hurt, I mean, I assume you're just going to start telling people what to do.
All
You're just
white
going to be like,
people
dude,
clothes
seriously?
look so
Just
uncomfortable.
do this.
Just like buckles and like everything's just fastened really tight and like it's not forgiving.
Yeah, so
It's like a people.
sparing all of you guys all of the details of the government of Rhodesia, which I couldn't even cover if like I took another whole week to look at it.
Oh, I'm so happy.
But
that's not
they're
next week.
very fascinating as much as they are fucking terrible. But we'll just say that Rhodesia was a very, very racist state where whites moved in to just make a profit off of black labor. Roof, in his website, The Last Rhodesian, published a manifesto on this website, as well as photos of him. I got some of those photos to show you guys, by the way.
Oh, all right.
And actually, it might be more fun if you guys use your smartphones. 'Cause
All right.
you guys will
They're
just,
intelligent.
Yeah, you'll find something perhaps better.
Give me some keywords here.
Go ahead and just type in Roof, Dylann Roof, Rhodesia. Or just Dylann Roof photos, for that matter, actually. In one of these photos, you can see him wearing two flags on his shirt. One of them being the Rhodesian flag, the namesake of his website, and the other being the apartheid South African flag. He had taken photos
had a
of
feeling it
himself
was
weeks
gonna-
before the shootings.
You know who he looks like?
He looks like Jonathan Taylor Thomas if Jonathan Taylor Thomas was a goddamn lunatic.
Oh yeah. He also looks like Did you ever see that video? Two Russians, one hammer.
No.
Oh, okay. Some other dark corners of the internet you don't want to go into, but like,
Anything that starts out with a 2 something, 1 something,
it's just
whatever
as
it is,
disturbing, but it's murder.
That's what I'm saying. Is, I mean,
Yeah.
he definitely looks a little frustrated in every picture.
Mushroom
but,
haircut makes me.
but he just, I don't know. He
He
looks
looks
like
like
like a
normal.
typical '90s kid that's just
Yeah.
like pissed off. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I got to be depressed because it's the grunge nation.
He's
Like,
definitely like Kurt Cobaining. Yeah.
This is my favorite.
Yeah, and there's one where he's burning the American flag. And
And I've done that. Like all these things.
Sam,
That's what I'm
are you
saying.
looking
That
through
looks
any
like
of the
a-
photos that perhaps he's holding a gun? Because I want you to just.
found one where he's holding a gun.
You should
yeah.
go ahead and type that into Google and look that up because
I found this one. Yeah, this is the one you just showed me, Joe.
I like that one a lot.
yeah, he's
He's got some potted plants. He's holding a Confederate
That's
flag.
the gun that he. This is the gun that he shot those people with.
yeah, it
That's
is.
a Glock 41 right there.
Yeah, he's
And those aren't like cutoff shorts. Those are straight up jean shorts he's wearing.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, it's
He's holding a fucking Confederate flag, so
It's real
I'm kind
gross.
of expecting him to be wearing some
Did you see-
fucking tailored denim shorts. Like,
Did you see the one where he's burning the American flag, but he's also
No.
quoted as saying like he wants to save America and wake white people up?
He's wearing a Gold's Gym tank top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And looks like he doesn't work out at all because
Ever.
he despises working out and people that do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, it's kind of funny. Yeah, he's like wearing a Gold's Gym T-shirt, but is also like, fuck everything. You know
He's
what I mean?
playing a role in his head.
Exactly.
He's
What I find the most
cosplaying what he thinks he should do.
Yeah,
Like,
because what fascinates me is that like he I think he was one of those people who was just like at home and like got on the internet and at one point like heard a news story, the only news story they ever paid attention to in their life, and like got online and was like, this is the righteous cause that I need to make a stand for, and nobody will understand me. And
See,
like
I hear that, but I also think
Like,
it's
he wanted
more
to
of
be an anime
like
character.
he's been waiting for an opportunity to do this, and he's just been waiting for the right cause to take.
Yeah, he finally found something to put
he's
it
like,
on.
I'm a super violent person, but I don't want to like announce I'm a super violent person. If I have a cause that I'm fighting for, then I'm not a violent person. I'm a
Like,
patriot.
I'm gonna
Exactly.
do this,
Right.
but I don't want to just get in trouble for it. I
Yeah.
need it to be like.
we have God on our side.
What I was gonna ask though is, when was this? What year?
this was 2015.
Oh, 2015.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was,
Looks like it's fucking 1995 in the
No,
picture.
he looked-
Yeah, these pictures are really fucking terrible.
And like in a couple of the ones where he's like holding a gun and like the Confederate flag, he looks possessed or like he hasn't.
He's got those
slept in
red eyes and
days.
stuff, yeah.
Well, and he's got these like huge bags under his cheeks, and he's like looking down but up through his eyebrows, and he just looks.
He's doing the
He looks like he's irritated at the cameraman, who is himself. So it.
You remember the movie The Professional, the assassin, where he's got those circle glasses? He's doing like those looks where he's just like kind of like looking down into the camera.
Yeah, never heard of that movie. But
Oh, it's a good one, man.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'll
real
have to
good.
check it out. But what you should not check out is Google and YouTube and how they became a Nazi machine. And I want to talk about how one gets self-radicalized at home, because it seems that one has to look just into very specific keywords to find the information that would lead you to pseudo-racist or just plain old racist text. Perhaps it's not so difficult, though. I found a write-up in MIT Technology Review which discusses how one goes online and watches a video or reads an article, and how that inadvertently has some channels to lead down to the racist side of political ideology. The article is short and sweet, but it does have some pertinent information to those who are curious about how the algorithm allows for this kind of content to be promoted. The MIT article touches on the Anti-Defamation League's categories of white nationalist extremism. There was a media, which is like kind of basic air quotes like unbiased news. So that's like that's just like a form of it. And this news is basically just reporting on documentation of events. And so it's, people coming over the border, a Mexican with who is arrested with drugs, that kind of thing. The second category, in their words, is the alt-light. The alt-light is essentially just people who, quoting the article, quote, justify white supremacy on the basis of eugenics and race science.
Ugh.
And yeah, these people aren't, again, like air quotes, racist. They just believe white people are being replaced or integrated with people of color.
That's what and they get around saying it, being like,
what?
no, it's bad for everybody what we
so,
mix.
So they don't
like-
promote white supremacy as much as they want white people to, from what I can gather. That they just kind of want to make sure that white people aren't a dying breed. And so it's, again, they call it alt-light, which I fucking love. It makes it sound like a Snickers bar, but like the diet version of it.
Every
on a
mixed
long
race
enough-
person is beautiful.
The third,
Yeah, for sure. Like mixed race babies are the
We are
cutest.
goofy
third
ass
category,
race that's
though,
like
is-
almost dying out.
The third category is just the alt-right. The run-of-the-mill, day-to-day, monotonous version of white supremacy. What was really interesting to me about this whole topic was how easily it really was for one to just punch into Google something like black and white crime and become radicalized. From their art standpoint.
Nobody gets Nobody gets that way in
I
a
don't
vacuum,
think so
dude.
either.
Nobody just decides to be this kind of hateful. Nobody just teaches themselves to premeditate murdering fucking 9 people in a church because of the color of their skin.
It has to be thought about. You don't do something
I'm
like that.
just saying somebody
accidentally.
taught him. Somebody taught him along the way.
Well, and
Somewhere in his like, how is it that we
A
haven't
lot
talked
of
about this guy's parents yet?
Well,
but
honestly,
who the fuck
I
are these-
honestly I looked
Who
into
are
his,
these people?
I looked into his parents. They're fucking boring. They're just
What-
normal people.
Yeah, when you don't, that
Like,
means he
no,
could have been
no,
one of those
his-
people that was just on
Doesn't
the
that
computer
seem
at all
even
times.
weirder that
Yeah.
like then his parents are super boring normies?
Well,
Like,
no,
yeah,
he's
fucking
even
right.
he says
No,
in his
but this is-
manifesto
I want to
that
see their basement.
No, but this is
That
where
might be an
this
interesting
is where I
thing to
was
look
thinking
at.
about earlier. Is
What's
it?
in the back of the closet?
It almost makes sense to me. Is like, no, these parents are super boring. I mean, like horribly boring. Like
Not church
Pops,
boring, but
Pops doesn't do shit at all besides eat fucking Doritos, and the wife just barely gets to the bathroom and back while she watches TV in the bedroom, and they smoke cigarettes in the house all day. And now that the internet,
we don't know that they do that.
no,
Well,
I'm
no.
just saying, I'm just
yeah, for
an
the
example.
record, he's building a
Yeah, okay.
hypothetical.
hypothetically, you know what I mean?
Right,
They're just lame. They are super lame. They literally don't do anything at all. And it's not like an outlook of like, oh, dad works hard and mom's frustrated and this and that and blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, what is life about? Because there's no example at all. And then, so what you do is you go on the internet. Because the internet is now our resource of everything credible. You don't talk to, you don't talk to,
I don't think it was necessarily that in his case. What I think it was he went on the internet to find like a group of people he could feel like he was related to. Because honestly, I feel like he might have felt fractured from his family. But yeah, it's
in
kind of
a short story, I guess was what I was getting at, is then he goes on the internet.
yeah.
And he's a person that has no outlook on life really at all, and then he finds it on the internet. And I feel like this is such a changing thing, and like growing up before internet was a thing, and now internet is, if you're wondering what anything means, boom, real quick, you're on the phone, you're on Google,
They're trying to make it a human
you're
right.
just there. And now it's people have been born never knowing what the internet was unlike, if that makes sense.
I was actually a not a flat earther, but I didn't think that maybe the earth was entirely round. I thought that maybe it was hollow as well. I was that for like maybe 3 months when I was like 20, 21 or something like that. Just because I was like, I got the internet and I just exploded down this rabbit hole where like I wanted to rebel against fucking everything, and I always do. And so I just dove into all these like the media's lying and Bill Nye wants you to get vaccines so you can die and all, like just like everything. And then after a little while I was like,
But what happened for
Earth is hollow.
a good point of a time too, I've seen it, and it still happens now, is that I see more people arguing about a credible source on the internet. Oh, you looked it up on Wikipedia? It's risky. Oh, you got it from the CDC? Well, we can count on that and stuff. But it's still just this internet. I'm not talking to the person. I don't know who's writing the article. I don't know who's doing all this stuff. But it's become this new, if you know better, reliable information that we all just put faith into that is reliable information. It's not a news anchor on the TV speaking that has a reliable 20-year background and all this. And some of them do.
But
That's what scares
yeah, one
me
thing I
about
do
that's
wanna-
always been the truth.
And
Is what we choose to collectively believe and what can be proved and things like
But
that.
what I'm getting at with this long part is, now that the internet is there, you can look at crazy shit
Just
that the craziest corners of the internet where you're like, dude, I'm sorry, 2 what and 1 what?
you want to kill what kind of
But
people?
then you can go to credible education at the same time. So in a mix of a younger person in 2015, when the internet's only been out for 20 years now or something like that.
no, it's like 30
Something, yeah. I mean, mainstream. You know what I mean? It's.
But in
But what I'm
everyone's
getting at
house,
is, like-
it's only been about 30 years, like 25 years.
I meet people all the time that think Wikipedia is credible. So keep in mind, when you don't have parents behind you saying what is a good example of something credible, and then you find what you think is credible on the internet, where you can type in one word and find the most horrible shit to the best shit there is in the world, well, you're going to make your own credibility up.
Well, what I would argue against that is like, if they cite their sources on Wikipedia, it's not about whether Wikipedia is credible. It's about whether the sources they cite are credible.
For sure, yeah. But
Right. And like anything, you know, like we're not going to call something a scientific fact until it's been peer reviewed.
You're not. I'm
So-
gonna say
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So
Right.
the
I mean, like,
But no one trusts me.
So the MIT article I was talking about, from their article, I want to quote the studies authors, of the studies articles
MIT,
talking
like
about.
the college.
Yeah. The study's authors hypothesized that the alt-right and intellectual dark web often serve as a gateway to more extreme far-right ideologies. So they tested that by tracing the authors of 72 million comments on about 2 million videos between May and July of last year. And I believe these are on Facebook, but I'll have to go back and look into that. The results were
tiring
worrying.
job in the
More than
Yeah.
26% of people who commented on alt-right videos tended to drift over to alt-right videos and subsequently comment there. So actually, this is on YouTube.
They accidentally created a
The article also noted that it seems that certain keywords and phrases can drastically change such parameters. Their article again. It's fairly easy to get to alt-right and intellectual dark web content with a simple search, but alt-right videos tend to be harder to find for first-time users. Yet the researchers found that YouTube's algorithm often directs users who search for certain specific keywords towards increasingly violent, extreme content. So there's definitely a sliding scale when it comes to racism. And if you're a racist like TM kind of person, it'll be much easier for you to slide down that slide that Dylann Roof did. By typing black on white crime, he may have inadvertently or totally intentionally radicalized himself.
So, and that's what I was kind of getting at with the whole internet boom thing is I'm curious on some statistics of
gateway racism.
it's, in a weird, it's like easier,
Gateway
it's
racism.
easier for you
Nice.
as a person that doesn't whatever because the outlet's there to sliding scale into being a racist and then shooting a fucking church up, and like doing all this other shit because it's
Well,
like
So-
but it like there's also another big thing it's not just racism. It like to me it seems like somebody who it's a mass shooter who wanted his targeted directed at somebody. So instead of it being like he wanted a target, he wanted an excuse to do it, but didn't know exactly what he wanted to do.
Yeah,
And you
and
seek
that's
it,
that's exactly what I was talking about.
Once someone was able to be like, hey, you know what? Like if you fight these guys, they're already fighting us.
Yeah.
If you do that, you're helping us.
And if
So,
you ask me, that's what he found on the Council of Conservative Citizens
Yeah.
websites, the CCC website, which he kind of says he does. But if you read the very first headline that I read, you can see how easily it is to be like shocked into like, wait, what are they talking about? And if they use any kind of like pseudoscientific words or technological
Where'd this
or
kid
like
grow up?
he grew up in Charleston.
Charleston.
Yeah, West Virginia. I can't remember now. South Carolina. There it is.
yeah.
One of those states. So when I say
my
Dylann
parents live there.
self-radicalized himself, what I mean is the same thing as I was talking about in our episode of the toilet paper shortage. There are people in this world who are looking to take advantage of your fears, and they aren't doing it because your fear is the same as theirs. Roof found this information because there are people out there publishing material that is either incorrect, intentionally misleading, or straight up disinformation. These people have vested interests as well, as I've discussed. The patron saints of racism make huge sums of money by tying racism, xenophobia, and patriotism in what it means to be an American. It also ties Christian identity into being a Republican. George Lincoln Rockwell, a very handsome neo-Nazi from back in the day, is to be thanked for that. But you guys, he also did a lot of heavy lifting when it came to like racist, catchy slogans, because he was a real piece of shit. He was a real piece of shit. He was actually the leader of a lot of things that pushed a lot of like abortion bills and stuff like that. He's kind of like the the granddaddy of being a Nazi piece of shit. And he actually led the Nazi Conservative Party or something like that in the United States. But can you guess what kind of racist slogan he came up with?
Oh, all right.
It's a really, really fun one.
Jews go home.
Nope.
Go back to your own country.
Nope. It's catchier than that and said more often than that.
Make America great again.
No, surprisingly, no. So,
hit me, baby, one more time.
George Lincoln Rockwell, a very notorious Nazi, actually really liked Malcolm X. Because Malcolm X had like kind of this belief that he did where it was like segregation, but also like go back to your own country, go back to Africa and stuff like that. And so he actually followed in Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party's footsteps when they said Black Power. He was watching them say Black Power for a long time. It was like,
so
White power.
White Power.
Just a straight up ripoff.
It's a straight, like, we got white power from black people.
The irony.
But where's the
fucking irony of these people? Oh man, it's so outrageous. It's like, I have such a hard time dealing with these sort of situations where you're like, but you see, can't you see how you're being massively hypocritical? And they're just like, dude, you're being hypocritical. And you're like,
but
what?
For them, they're just like, no, we don't want black people to be like gone. We just don't want them to
Be around.
When we interbreed, everybody loses. So let's have our country here.
Which
you
is-
have your country over there.
Which is
And
like
I'm
scientifically the opposite of how
How
breeding
Will Smith
from
was made.
opposite ends of a genomic spectrum are. Like if you breed,
So
if
many
you,
attractive people were made.
God,
So many attractive people.
yeah.
yeah, it's these people were just honestly
just
what I think
Will
it
Smith
is.
and The Rock. Is that bad? Am I gay?
Why don't you
No.
tell us?
They're so beautiful, though.
They really are.
Like I can't argue. Yeah, The Rock. I mean,
And like
pretty good. Will Smith, pretty good.
They just look like
They're
statues.
family friendly, good looking, healthy.
and when
fit
you watch
people
Will Smith
doing-
cry when
All
he's
of
killing that
Spain.
dog in I Am Legend,
Oh.
I fucking felt that. Like
I
that
just
brings
watched the new
tears
Men
to me every time.
the boy
No,
Bad
we're
Boys
going down
movie.
this fucking hole.
Did you almost say Boys to Men movie?
I did. I wish it was a Boys
That
to
would
Men
be an
movie.
awesome movie. I think they should make a movie about
Like
Boys
a straight
to Men,
out of
just
Compton, like
yeah.
real life, like how
real
it
life
was.
Boys
like,
to Men on VH1 Classic.
behind Boys to Men. Michael Jackson.
Well, getting back to our story, Dylann Roof possibly.
Oh man.
I like that the story is funny to you guys, sick fucks. Dylann Roof possibly misled youth, waived his extradition rights after he was captured, and was flown back to Charleston to face trial after his capture. He had committed a total of 33 state and federal crimes. And a few of those were capital crimes.
Yeah.
Better be at least a couple
Fucking
capital because
3 of them.
It's
were
noted that
capital
he's the
crimes,
first
I
person in
think.
U.S. history to face both state and federal death penalties. When he arrived back to Charleston, his cell block neighbor was Michael Slager.
Sick dude,
Honestly,
can
I
I-
don't give a fuck if I mispronounce his name because you'll hear. A police officer charged with murdering a Walter Scott. Now, you may not have heard the story of Walter Scott. If you have, kudos to you. But Walter Scott was an unarmed black man pulled over for a taillight violation. And we're just going to broad stroke everything like we did earlier. But Walter Scott's brother claims that he was heading to an auto parts store when he was pulled over. Basically, Slager spoke with the man and went back to his patrol car when Scott got out of the vehicle and fled on foot. After giving a small chase, there was an alleged altercation wherein Slager shot his taser into Scott, who then proceeded to try to leave. So the guy got shot with a taser and started running. Slager, the officer, drew his standard issue .45 caliber Glock 21 and shot 8 rounds at Scott. 5 bullets meeting their mark, more or less.
I think I saw that footage.
Yep. Slager
Yeah.
then went
It's
to
like
his
in a
vehicle.
field.
Which
and-
sucks is it like you said it, and it was like one of those things where I was like, oh well, I've heard so many of these stories, I don't know which one it could be.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, and also it's just one of those situations where like you kind of know the story,
yeah.
but like you
Heard
have
it
to
too
hear it
many
anyway.
times with different characters.
So the officer then went to his vehicle and claimed that Scott, quote, grabbed his taser. He also claimed that Scott had taken his taser and that he had felt threatened. What's most interesting was Scott was shot in the back, didn't have possession of a taser, and was 15 to 20 feet away. So there was no physical altercation in regards to like when the time the bullets had been shot,
The guy
according to
was
this
20
video.
feet away by
Right,
the time
yeah.
he was
Running.
pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can approximately gauge the distance from which he was shot because an eyewitness took video of the whole thing. Slager was then seen grabbing something off the ground from where the altercation took place and dropped whatever object it was next to the dead man. In the aftermath of the incident, claimed that Slager had shot an unarmed black man, which is a run-of-the-mill event here in the United States. And again, since we're broad stroking this, let's just say another white cop killed another innocent until proven guilty black man. So he was then arrested and shipped to the building and was held in the cell next to Dylann Roof.
Oh, I'm sure they got along super
Yeah,
well.
and so Dylann, who is on record as killing black people for how much black people kill white people, was in a cell next to a man who killed a black person.
Not only that, the Trayvon Martin case. So like that was his like starting thing. Like he must have been like wetting his pants over there, like loving the story so much. So,
Yeah, it's the whole story just it doesn't get better from here, guys.
Was it good to begin with?
I mean,
Did
it-
missed something. Like I know we're laughing, but it's more of like
No, it's like one of those nervous laughing
horror of
because
it
like
all,
if we stay not laughing, we're crying. So like we got to
it's like the laugh
stay up.
you do just
Like-
before you jump off a 40-foot cliff into water.
Yeah. So wait, what was that? Are you saying that I'm crazy? Well,
No,
I don't
it's
know.
the dog pound. Woo, woo, woo,
The producer is circling at his head.
Hall.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Is it?
that guy's crazy, and
It's.
we got to take a short commercial
Oh,
break here.
we got to take
pretty
a
soon.
little break.
Yeah, we
right.
wrap it up. So finish thoughts.
Well,
Go on.
since
you
you're
kicking
interrupting
us
me so rudely.
Wow,
You brought it
asked
up. You brought it up to the viewers.
Yeah, you're right. You know,
He shot a
we-
glitter cannon. It was kind of hard for us not to all acknowledge.
And
it.
honestly, there are so many advertisers
this
that we
out of
need
my
to put
hair.
on this show that we've got to take a break. So I think that's what we're going to go ahead and do here.
all right,
In just
ready for
a
Casper
moment.
mattress.
When
It's
we
break
break.
time. Break time.
Thank you for listening to Black Sheep and Bad Apples. We are going to take a short intermission. If you feel the need to take a short bathroom break, find some food, have another beer, or have a smoke, please pause and do so now. Also, while you're up, please hit the like, subscribe, or share button down below. Thank you for your support, and we'll be right back with a little bit more of Black Sheep and Bad Apples. Hello, Alfred here. I think you really like vacuums. Well, I do too. Come down and get yourself a vacuum from Alfred. That's me. And now back to our feature presentation of Black Sheep and Bad Apples.
Welcome back, We're all here.
I'm not here.
Back. So, during Dylann Roof's interview with the FBI investigators, they discussed the shooting of Walter Scott. In the discussion, the investigators are looking into whether what Hughes did was motivated in any. They were looking into if what he did was motivated in any other way or by any other event. And I'm quoting the interview here.
Who was motivated? Walter Scott or
No,
Roof?
Dylann Roof. Yeah, this
Roof.
is the interview where they're like, we should call him something mean, but yeah. This is the FBI interview where they're like holding him for the first time, and they're like, were there any other events, like, did the Walter Scott event that happened down there, did that? And he goes, oh, no, that had nothing to do with it. And the interviewer, it was strictly because, and he goes, it's just, Walter Scott, you talking about the black guy that got shot by the cop, right? And the investigator goes, uh-huh. And Dylann also discusses in this interview about what he thinks is a solid solution to the race issue, which I would think would be less violent than, like, racist acts. But, I'm going to quote the investigation. So you're hoping white people will rise up and become aware through what you did. And he says, yes. And it doesn't mean I want all white people to rise up and kill all black people. And the interviewer says, but you want them to be aware. I just want them to do something, for themselves,
Oh, he sounds like he's got a solid idea.
to stop what's happening to them. And they don't even know what's happening to them. And he pauses for a very long moment. And obviously, and then the guy goes, oh, no. The long pause was by the investigator. And Mr. Roof goes, it doesn't mean you have to kill all black people. Just, make things better, The investigator. But in your mind, making things better, right, as you said in the very beginning, is going back to segregation. White people are in charge. I mean, white people need to be running the country, right? Well, yeah, sure. Right. I mean, like, no more black presidents, no more black politicians, right? I mean, no more black presidents, sure. I don't think we need a black president.
Sounds very logical. I'm sure he's a very fun guy to have a conversation with.
A very fun guy to have around.
I just feel like it's not.
I'd have a little bit of fun if he was around.
But he just said sure a lot, so it's like I don't think he even really thought of that.
Yeah,
Well,
me neither.
I think the
you couldn't do
investigator-
that. You couldn't do that in a courtroom. That'd be leading.
That's what I'm saying.
and
I
this
feel
is
like the
this is a trick.
investigator's leading
But this is
a
the
little
first
bit.
time he's talking after the fight.
Yeah, this
Right.
is literally them capturing him and bringing him in. And this is, I've got the notes here. Out of the 2 hours that they interview him, which you can find on the internet, you can find the video that that I'm taking these quotes from. This is 1 hour and 35 minutes into the interview, out of a 2-hour interview. And so they've already got all this information, and they're just trying to kind of like restate the facts so they understand it very clearly.
Right. No, and I get it. And like it's the investigator's job to like find out as much information as he or she can. So like leading somebody to say or agree to something is kind of like one of the things they're doing.
It's like,
What they're supposed to be doing.
Are you thinking this or are you thinking that? Like, and they're kind of trying to identify it with some hard questions, and I do get that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, are you trying to say like you don't even want the president to be black? And he's like, yeah, sure.
Well,
It's like, okay, well, or are you meaning like they're gonna just start
Yeah.
spitballing like a bunch of hard?
Yeah.
Are you
They're
just a
trying to-
blatant racist?
yeah, they're trying to compare
Do you
and
just
contrast.
hate black people,
Well,
and
the,
that's
the
why you
lack
want him
of
dead?
passion
Or
in it
is
makes
that,
me
like-
think it's that he doesn't like I really think he's just a psychopath that wanted to kill. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
And also, like, not for nothing, the interview in which I'm quoting. It's literally like this kid who's kind of like just sitting, drinking bottles of water, looking and feeling very nervous around these police investigators. But everybody seems very cordial.
How old
But
is he?
He's, I believe, 20 at the time that he's going through this interview, and so being a little bit nervous and with all the ums and the likes and I don't all that kind of stuff. I kind of
God
understand.
forbid he had a beer at the bar.
Interestingly enough,
Oh, jeez.
He actually, I didn't put this into the thing, but he had apparently bought a tall bottle of Smirnoff Ice.
Of course.
And
Cool
the
dude.
police
Cool
investigated.
dude.
I now agree 100% with Joe that he is just a fucking serial psychopath motherfucker.
Oh no, this is
who
the
wants
turn
to
where I
kill.
like him now.
He's like, oh, a fucking
Joe's like,
deuce of
Team Roof.
Smirnoff.
Yeah.
Deuce of Smirnoff. Something wrong
He
with that
iced
person.
it. He got iced.
Hey, you're 20. You know, you're just getting what you can get, and the local clerk would smell.
I mean, a
Smirnoff.
40 of OE probably costs just the same.
Well, and
Yeah,
what he,
but that tastes like shit, and Smirnoff tastes like
Lemonade.
bullshit.
lemonade, yeah, yeah, it's good stuff. You don't like sugar headaches, Sam?
When you
Oh
Blinks
yeah, no,
at me.
you're right. I forgot.
when
how
you're drinking
lovely
soda
those are.
pops all day,
Yeah.
then it tastes a lot
I
better.
know, right? I forget everybody drinks soda.
So again, if you
Let's get
in one of
back
the
to
few
this
times
now.
in one of the few times I'm ever proud of police officers, Dylan, as I discussed, was arrested like 14 hours after the shooting. And if you listen to his interview with the FBI investigators, it seems that he was just kind of fucking meandering about the shooting.
That's a decent amount
At
of time.
Yeah,
one
they
point,
should have
he-
got him sooner.
At one point, he was heading towards Nashville
kind of
because
car
he
was he
said
driving?
he had never been there. He was driving like some black sort of Camry 4-door or something.
And like
He
you
was-
said, he
but-
left in camera view, so they knew what car he
They
was
knew what
driving. as
camera-
Yeah,
soon as-
but dude, he's driving like a fucking Camry. That's the significant chunk of the vehicles out there look like that. You know what I mean?
And for the record, he was captured like 245 miles away, so it was
just
kind of an
took off.
impressive
Yeah,
catch
yeah.
because a black car could be anywhere. But also, it was like just a couple hours after that. In the interview, they asked him. I didn't put it in here and script it, but they're like, "So where'd you go like after the thing?" And he's like, "I don't really know where I went for a little while. Just kind of like on a highway and started like driving around, and kind of like lost my mind." And then he ended up saying that he was like he was like going to go towards his parents' house, if I remember correctly, and just like shot past them and went all the way down to I forget the town name he was caught in, but he ended up like stopping at a couple of fast food restaurants and like pulling into a gas station and pulling out $20 because he didn't have any gas and didn't want to use his card because they can trace that, is a quote that I remember from his interview. And then he decided that he was going to go towards Nashville. And when they were like, "Why the fuck Nashville? Do you have friends? Do you have homies? Is there like a crew up there like of racists?" And he's like, "No, I'd never been there before, and I heard it's beautiful."
Whoa.
It's always funny to me the people that are like, I don't use debit cards because they can trace that, but then they do very much other identifiable things,
Yeah, like going to the
like drive down the
DMV,
freeway,
going to the store.
you go anywhere, do anything, interact with people, talk on the phone that they own, things like that are. I'm just like, use their email,
Oh yeah.
on their Google account.
it's harder to get into your email than it is your phone.
Well, you gotta
But it's all
understand-
linked to your name, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for
So I'm
sure.
just saying, it's like, but you won't
just
use your
gotta-
debit card because, God
gotta-
forbid, they see where you spend money.
Yeah,
Go-
and if you watch a British crime drama, you'll see that there's steps that you can take to avoid those things and still use you. But those guys aren't bad guys; they're just drug dealers. It's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This kid's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy. He murders people because of the color of their skin. He's a fucking piece of shit.
He's not a good
He
guy.
must have sold
that's for
drugs
damn
at least once.
I don't think
I
so.
think he tried
Dylann Roof?
marijuana.
I just
he's
something.
clearly
No,
a pothead.
Dylan
Yeah,
Roof.
that's I'm like, this sounds like stoner paranoia.
He
where
was
it's
caught
like,
with
if I use my
methadone.
debit card, they'll find me. Hey, bro, can I get a dub sack?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He was caught with methadone like a couple. I think it was maybe 6 months before the shooting.
Caught with methadone.
He was caught with methadone because he didn't have a prescription for it. Like he was just
that's a
eating
weird drug to
methadone or
do by
shoot. I don't know
choice.
how you
Yeah.
would take methadone, but yeah, I think so.
Well, they make liquid as well.
Yeah, I don't know what he was caught with specifically, but it was definitely that.
You know who he reminds me of a lot? That like we're talking is Dylan Klebold, the guy from the Columbine shooting.
Oh,
He
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of him. Like,
interesting. Well, now we're gonna get into the sentencing, the appeals part of this. Dylann Roof, racist bad guy, generally a big old piece of
He's
shit.
a bad guy.
He was sent to court a year after he was arrested which was actually like a year and a half after or so. But we're just talking about the state prosecution.
And
here.
he didn't get to be bailed out.
No.
So they let him rot for a year and a half before he even got to go for a trial.
Yes, sir.
That makes me really happy.
He was charged with being,
makes me so happy.
he was charged with being, a deplorable racist and terrible human being. And on September 3rd, 2016, like a year or so after the thing, the district attorney Scarlett Wilson announced she will seek the death penalty for Roof. A few weeks later, Roof's attorney notified the courts that he would enter a plea agreement. He said he'd plead guilty for his crimes, 9 counts of murder and 3 counts of attempted based upon the 3 survivors of the shooting, and possession of a firearm during the commission of the crime.
In possession of a firearm. I like how that's just like the little, and you had an illegal firearm type of bullshit. You killed 9 people. Of course he had a fucking illegal firearm. What's that? An extra 2 days?
Well, if he had had the gun and he had stabbed the people and never used the gun, he would still have caught that charge.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I
It's
mean?
just like and possession of a.
Yeah, and
Well, it's just
and
like
so-
getting Al
can't be
Capone for tax evasion. You're trying to get as much as
Yeah,
you can to
yeah,
keep
yeah.
him in
For
there.
sure, for
This is what you do with these scenarios. You throw as much shit at it as possible, and you see how much you can shove down the motherfucker's throat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And so
It's like what they're doing to Joe Exotic right now.
that's an episode for another time. So that was just poor writing. What I meant to say is he said he'd plead guilty on the case that on the constituency that he wouldn't get death. So during the trial, which started April 10th,
Yeah, I kill them
2017.
as long as you won't kill me.
No. He wants to just rot in prison. He doesn't want to die.
That's what
Because
I'm saying.
we're
He's
way
he's
too
like,
good to
yo,
white supremacists in prison.
I'll say I
there's
killed
way
those
too many
people as long as you
prison
don't kill
guards
me.
that are white supremacists.
So
Kid's gonna be playing video games the rest of his life.
April 10th, 2017, like slightly less than 2 years after he, killed a bunch of people for no fucking reason, Dylann Roof pleaded guilty to those counts and was charged with 9 consecutive life sentences.
Well, remember, it wasn't no reason. It was like I want to change things.
Oh, right,
and,
right,
like,
yeah.
Like
Race
have
war.
things be better.
I want white
Whites
people
need to be
just
aware.
realize what's going on. By the way, his manifesto is something.
I was
It's
just reading.
Yeah. So anyway, the DA that was sentencing him during the state prosecution, Wilson, said that they had offered him the plea deal to ensure that no matter what happened during his federal prosecution, he would fucking die in prison. And I'm not quoting her, but that's what she was saying. So, during the federal prosecution, a grand jury indicted Roof for 33 federal charges, 9 counts of murder with a firearm, and then they slapped him with 24 sweet civil right violations.
Yeah.
12 hate crime charges and 12 counts of hate crime statute that prohibits using force, coercion, or threat to impede one's free exercise of religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, that just
And-
puts you
and
right
then
to solitary.
also using a gun to do that
Yeah.
too was like
Yeah.
another charge on top of it. I was looking through that list.
yeah, it's
It's pretty nice.
It's very nice. It's sweet upon the lips, like a refreshing Deschutes fresh squeezed IPA, which is what I'm currently drinking.
I was say an Italian having a pizza pie.
So are you saying that Deschutes is like a racist murdering?
Getting his just desserts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was saying that what the kid's getting, his reward for his crimes is it's nice.
Very nice.
It's nice. He's gonna die.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, going back in time to like a couple weeks after he was arrested, Roof pleaded not guilty to the federal charges, and it was actually like a really smart move on his lawyer's behalf because the federal prosecution may have been looking to put him to death. On May 24th, my birthday, 2016.
Happy birthday.
Terrible. The Justice Department announced that they would seek the death penalty for Roof. In June of 2016, Dylann Roof said he didn't want to be tried by a jury, but rather he wanted a judge himself to try him and to sentence him.
That's like more likely to be in death than
Luckily, though, he was denied the option. a few. So what I find the most fascinating about this, I'll get to.
It was
this.
just a
I
time
just
saver.
want to read a little bit of this.
Buy me a couple more months so they can decide and turn me down, and then we'll proceed on. Like
Fire your
some
lawyer, start over again.
Some
and
lawyer
have to go
bullshit.
next
Yeah, where
6
it's like,
months,
hey,
and
if you
I'm
just
like,
ask for this, they'll definitely turn you down, but we won't have to decide this decision for another
6 months.
6
whatever,
months
yeah.
or whatever. Bullshit.
So a few months later, during November, the overseeing judge ordered Dylann to receive a competency evaluation to see if he was cognizant enough to understand the trial and what was going on around him. The most strange thing to me is that on November 25th, 2016, he was allowed to be represented pro se. That means he was able to represent himself in court. 2 weeks or so later, Dylann asked the presiding judge to give him back his defense team for the guilt phase of the trial. It was an incredibly short trial. On December 7th, the trial began. They played the video that I've talked about all fucking goddamn night. The one where he literally confesses to his crimes. And on December 15th, so 8 days later, the jury, after deliberating for 2 fucking hours, returned to the courtroom and found Dylann Roof guilty on all 33 counts.
God.
That's incredible because they had to go through each count.
Right. That's why it took 2 hours.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah, because they would have just been like,
no,
we
they
don't,
went
we don't need to
quick.
leave
if it
actually.
was just murder in the first, it would have been a 10, like, in a few minutes and then one, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like,
So
4 minutes. That's how long they deliberated.
Guilty.
Guilty.
And
Yeah,
on the account, formal
it was like
formal
that-
proceeding, guilty, formal proceeding, guilty,
Right,
formal, 33 goddamn
yeah, 33
times.
times, yeah.
Right.
So
Meanwhile,
January
hours-
10th,
I assume
That's
half,
it. What is that? Is that every 20 minutes?
Oh yeah, what's yeah?
No, it's
what's
less than
I've
that.
thought about the math. I didn't even want to try.
what's
and bring it up.
120 minutes divided by 33?
It's every 4 minutes a guilty charge.
and they were just like, they were machine gunning fucking guilty pleas. They were like, guilty, brr, guilty, brr, guilty. But
Like faster, come on.
the fact that just like, yeah, you don't even have to say it. What charge? Guilty. What charge? Guilty. We're
You know,
done
they
here.
just realized that it was going to
But
cost.
none of the charges seem like, well, that's oddly, how would that even work? Oh, I guess, yeah, I could see if you were looking. No, it's all just like,
Oh, he shot
you
those
can't
people.
do this.
Walked in
Did you?
and shoot
Yes.
him.
Okay, guilty. Can't do this. Did you? Yes. Okay, guilty.
The jury was just like, he's guilty all the way around, so whatever they said, just do the formalities, say
Yeah.
guilty. Do we all agree? And they were like, yeah, we're guilty.
He's guilty
Fuck
for
this-
everything.
Fuck this guy, unanimous decision.
So,
cool, go.
January
Oh
10th,
shit, we get paid
2017.
Yeah,
next
I'd like to
17.
be a fly on the wall for that one.
January 10th, 2017, the jury recommended to the judge that Roof be put to death.
Yeah.
The next
Kill
day,
that fucker.
the judge sentenced him to just that.
Yeah.
During his
How?
pretrial, however,
So
because
they
we're
said
going to
guilty
get
for 2 hours, and they were like, and our own personal comment? Could you
Throw him to the
fucking
lions.
kill this motherfucker?
Murder
Like,
this dude.
so during his pretrial, Dylann had his psychological evaluation, and according to the Post and the Courier, a news site, quote, at his November 7th competency hearing, Roof took a particular issue with the expert's findings that he has autism. Gergel, however, the judge and presiding Gergel, however, explained that the defense team wanted to introduce the evidence with hopes of convincing a jury to spare his life. Quote, your lawyers are trying to help you, Mr. Roof. They are trying to marshal a defense for you, Gergel said. After Gergel prodded several times...
Gurgle?
His Gergel. Gurgel.
Gurgle.
Gurgel. Whatever.
His name's Gurgle.
Gurgle.
After
it's Gurgle.
Gergel prodded several times, Roof admitted why he opposed it. The admission that he has autism. It discredits the reason why I did the crime. Could you explain to me? Could you explain that to me? Being labeled autistic is worse than death, Gergel said. How being labeled is worse than death.
Yeah.
Because once you've got that label, there's no point in living anyway, said Dylann Roof.
That's why I'm like, that's where
What a
it throws the
guy.
twist in there, where it's some people will do some horrible shit, but when the sentence comes down, they are very much about making sure the sentence, even though they don't want to be in that position they were in, is appropriate. Because if it's they're like, yo, if we plead you for insanity, you won't get the death penalty. And they're like, but if I plead insanity, that ruins everything
It's
about
gonna-
what I just did.
It's going to take
I'm not
away
doing
the
this because I'm
credibility
insane.
that I have.
I'm
as
doing this
a
because I
racist.
actually had a thought in my brain that I believe is true. And if you say I'm insane, then nobody will believe that is what
Well,
is
but
right.
I think you could be
And it's-
autistic and racist.
Well, and that's the thing that frightens me about his mentality is he's
No,
like,
but-
yeah, all the other racists won't take me seriously once they figure out I'm autistic.
But that just proves how true he was about whatever he did. He was like, I'm just trying to make the white people aware. No, if you say I'm autistic, nobody will believe an autistic person is just trying to make the white people aware. No, it means a competent, smart individual in his mind or whatever, somebody believable needs, and that will affect somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Like,
that's
he's
where it's
got the
like,
credibility
that's where
to-
that psycho crazy, like, I think he's just fucking insane.
Well,
it's because it's like, you know, this guy.
proves his like genetic superiority too. You know, on some
And
level.
I think-
you know,
I think
'cause,
that's kinda what he's,
people
like,
see that
leaning
as
into.
as a negative.
Now, I want to get to a little bit of good news, guys. Well, good news
He's
and bad
dead?
news.
He
An
has
article
a
published-
Pinterest where he makes sweaters with kittens on it.
Well, you know what? Put a pin in that
Oh, yes.
Pinterest. Was
because
that
we're not going to get to it. An article published August 4th, 2016 by USA Today reports that a few months after the shooting and his subsequent arrest, Roof had an encounter in prison. Quoting their article, Dylann Roof, who faces murder charges and the killing of 9 black parishioners at Charleston, South Carolina, at a Charleston, South Carolina church, was attacked Thursday morning outside a detention center shower by a fellow inmate who bolted from an unlocked cell, according to a Charleston County sheriff. According to Charleston County Sheriff Al Cannon Jr. Roof, 22, was bruised in the face and back, but not seriously injured, according to jail officials. No weapons were involved. The sheriff told reporters that Roof and his attorney did not want to press charges against the attacker, identified as 25-year-old Dwayne Stafford. Stafford, who is black, has been in the jail since January on charges of armed robbery and assault and battery. Blah, 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 blah.
And nobody gives a fuck if
Yeah.
he beats the shit out of this kid as long as he doesn't kill him, because the state's gonna do that.
Well, and
Yeah, yeah.
Cannon...
Don't take him before we do.
Yeah, Cannon said there
Dead
was
man
no.
walking.
Yeah.
Cannon said there was no concrete indication that the attack was racially motivated.
It's not racially motivated.
So
Yeah,
there's
no,
that.
that's clearly not.
That's-
That's just one dude being pissed about you doing some bad
I
shit.
want to do the same thing to this kid.
Well, it is racially motivated, but
Well,
it's
no,
because
it's,
of what
it's
he
not
did.
No,
because he just killed people,
In the
and
light
that's
of-
bad.
yeah, in the light of the law, it has nothing to do with race at this point. It's about a dude just being pissed that you murder people in a church, motherfucker. That's not right.
You're a right asshole, and I'm
might-
gonna give you a fucking walloping, you scallywag.
So do you
That's
guys-
too
That's
much.
exactly
Yes,
what he said.
Grandpa.
You guys
Sam.
want to hear how remorseful Dylan is?
Yes.
Because I'm gonna end this podcast
Is it not at all?
here in just a moment. From another USA Today article, quote. Oh, I scrolled up way too far.
Not at all remorseful. Fuck that kid.
The shooting and his loss of freedom were worth it, Roof wrote on a lined paper, saying he couldn't live with himself if he did nothing as he watched these, quote, this is them quoting Dylan, these things happen to my people. I would like to make
You don't
it
have people, dude.
I would like to make it crystal clear I do not regret what I did. I am not sorry. I have not shed a tear for the innocent people I killed, he wrote and later continued. I have shed a tear of self-pity for myself. I feel pity that I had to do what I did in the first place. End quote.
Scumbag.
Martyr.
One thing I really wanted to find in the story was a date for which he was destined to be put to death. Having gone that route, I wanted to know how long it typically takes one to be put to death after their sentence.
And how
What-
much
what-
does it cost for me to go and watch?
How
It takes a
what,
fucking long time for somebody to die on death
It's
row.
like 5 years.
What
at
kind
least.
of,
In 2010, go ahead.
what type of like sentence of death? Like injection?
Lethal injection, yeah. In 2010, it took about 15 years between sentencing and execution on average. It seems from the varying reports that I found that one can be executed in around 6 months, but that's only if one is sentenced to death and one does not appeal it. Dylann Roof is now appealing his sentence to death on the grounds that he was mentally incapacitated at the time. It seems that Roof had a change of heart, that he didn't want to die. Because remember, he wanted to die by cop or kill himself.
Howard.
So I'm going to end this with an NBC article, which, as we know, very resourceful. Quote, one of their main arguments is that the U.S. District Judge Richard Gergel should not have allowed Roof to represent himself during the penalty phase of his trial because he was a 22-year-old ninth grade dropout. 22. Quote, this is quoting Dylann, who believed his sentence didn't matter because white nationalists would free him from prison after an impending race war.
That's actually very sad to hear that that's what
well,
That
he's
makes
read
me
the
think
Turner Diaries, obviously.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is.
The impending race war.
Yeah, well, and one thing that I find the most fascinating about this and the funniest is that there's been so many people who've tried to kill people of the opposite race for so long because it's going to start a race war. But everybody else on this fucking planet seems to be like, I don't want any of that. Like I don't want any kind of race war. Like, I have friends everywhere.
Nobody
wants that shit.
None of us want this.
We're good.
They don't even want other war.
The whole world goes. We go to war all the time and stuff, but generally speaking, it doesn't seem to be too much about race.
No, it's about oil.
No,
Yeah.
it's about religion.
Yeah,
I mean, religion, yes.
Yeah, that's always like gone through the thing and stuff. But I'm just saying, it's like where we're like, oh, but wipe out the Spaniards. No, I just want to fight them because of this. Or
There
wipe
was
out.
one very big time that tried to happen.
Yeah, well, I get that. That's what I'm saying.
and
But
like
as a
also.
A couple
That
times.
shit's
maybe.
happening.
yeah, okay.
We
okay,
did
but,
do it to
like,
the Indians.
Yeah, the Native Americans.
Yeah.
How long ago
like-
was that? That's all I'm like.
Yeah, I don't know what this is new.
Yeah.
This is something that recently happened.
What was it?
So I thought white people have done
600 years
great
ago?
things since forever.
All right.
Manifest Destiny, I believe.
Mute the mic. Mute the.
So how you guys feeling at the end of this podcast? You guys feeling pretty good?
Tense.
Yeah, tense.
Tense. Yeah.
Really?
The underlining joke that didn't really come up too much was the Manchurian Candidate thing, and I think that it is something to bring up because it's something that a lot of these are the big conspiracy around, and like for this one, like I don't believe it could possibly be it. Simply for the fact of how poorly trained he was, how he didn't get
So
he didn't get everyone in the
describe to me, because I'm actually unfamiliar with the Manchurian Candidate, but also for
it's
any
kind
listeners.
of an MK Ultra, like a sleeper
Mind
cell type.
control.
The theory is that there are a lot of these people out here that just get triggered and do mass shootings because they either get triggered by the government or accidentally or through mental illness.
They pick up their phone and somebody says a certain code, like a coded phrase, and now they're gonna do the thing that's buried in their head that they're programmed to do, whatever it is, and they can't stop themselves.
But I think that like with a lot of these, like you can file those under like Alex Jones theories. Where
I was going to say the same thing just now. Yeah,
they try and they have a lot of conspiracies that make you not think it's as bad as it really is.
Yeah,
it's that false flag. Because
I think
the Sandy Hook
the crisis actors.
Here,
I was going to say, I think
that.
the crisis actors and like the Manchurian Candidate like ideas. I think that these things might be something that's like has been deployed as propaganda. In regards to propaganda,
a couple times.
But in the case of literal kids being shot in a school, in the case of there's no reason to think that it's such a pervasive thing that literally everything that's happening to everybody else who isn't you is some sort of propaganda.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, that just feels like you are afraid of the television.
That you don't really believe the outside world's real. That you think that there's like a show being put on for you. I think that's a very dangerous mentality. You can see that with a lot of those people.
Nobody cares enough to manipulate you as the individual.
No.
We just want to get the people who are easy.
This goes right out to Hobo Johnson.
Hobo Johnson.
We are not gang stalking you. Like
know you're
this is
easy.
not a conspiracy to just try and get you on the podcast or try and get you to sue us.
It's never been about that.
We just think your shit's lame.
We just think your shit's lame.
And
So I'm gonna just. Do you guys want to? No, we're not. We shouldn't do that. What I will say is that we should end tonight by just saying that, like,
Fuck Hobo Johnson.
fuck Hobo Johnson.
Fuck Hobo Johnson.
Dylann Roof is gonna die, and he keeps appealing and appealing and appealing and appealing and appealing. But it seems like nobody's having a shit. So maybe there will be an episode where we get to kind of an update on some of the serial killers.
Maybe we'll get to have a Dylann Roof is dead party.
If that happens, let's all we'll do a shot on air, just
Yeah.
to celebrate him dying.
Yeah.
Well,
That's someone I could celebrate
that's
dying.
yeah.
There's very
I
few of
didn't do
those
it.
people.
Yeah, I didn't do
It's
it.
on for sure, but then there's days you should rejoice.
Yeah, and anytime anytime a racist is reformed is a better day than when a racist dies. But in the case of Dylann Roof, who
made his
shot 9
decision.
people and seems like an
Yeah.
irredeemable racist fucking asshole. Like, he seems like what's the whale that was it Moby Dick or the yeah
Moby Dick
he
is
seems
the
like
whale.
the
Ishmael.
Moby Dick of racists. You know what I mean? Where
What's
it's
the
like,
captain's name?
Was that Ishmael?
No. Ishmael's the...
and he's the
narrator.
Moby Dick, and they
They
fucking
call me Ishmael?
got him, guys.
Ishmael.
They fucking got him. And so it's like, I'm not sad to say necessarily that Dylann Roof is sentenced to death because he is a racist piece of shit
I
and
think
murdered
we're
a
all
bunch
on
of
board.
people.
I think we're all on
He
board
can
with that.
fucking- And that's the end of tonight's episode, where we've covered a little bit of how people get just radicalized in any kind of regard. You guys have any thoughts you want to end on?
I did mine.
Anything you guys want to plug?
Fourth Corner Studios?
North Corner Studios.
Dylann Roof's mouth.
Yeah.
Fucking 45.
Dylann Roof, plug, you can die. Hashtag die Dylann Roof.
Okay. Yep.
Let's get it trending, guys.
Well, and as for that, I want to thank you, Mr. Sean Producer Man, for being here again. Making sure the sound sounds good. Sounds good, does it? Does it not?
Should we
pretty
start like a
sure,
Kill
I
'Em
think
Now
it
campaign?
does.
Should we start recording and start this?
I think we should start recording.
Let's.
All right.
I want to thank you, Mr. Joe Dacey, for being here, helping us as the resident storyteller, and Mr. Sam Mitchell. Thank you for
Always
doing
fun.
your weird research. And I, as always, am Loren O'Brien with Black Sheep and Bad Apples. Thank you guys for being here with us. Good night.